Hey everyone, it is Friday night, and it is time for Dream & Code Live. This is going to be episode number 10, our 10th episode. And I am Andre Burdett, also Skaggles on the forum. I am in a new location, which allows me to stream a little better, so hopefully looks a little... That doesn't look right, does it? I'm kind of testing out this new thing. Is it streaming okay? Alright. Anyways, I'll just keep continuing. So, this is episode number 10, kind of a milestone that we've done 10 episodes. Well, we've done 9 episodes. We're about to do a 10th. I am in a new location, like I said. I'm able to stream better. The quality should be better. Hopefully the recording is going to be better too, but I can't really know if the recording is going to be good until after the show, so it's kind of like just crap. Okay, so first things first. Well, a few announcements. I am working on one screen now. That's kind of like the sacrifice I had to do. So you may see a couple windows overlapping at times as I try to rearrange stuff. But a couple of things, we have the Dream & Code Live Facebook page where we make announcements and talk about crap that we're doing. We also have the Weekly DIC or Dream & Code Live webpage, weeklydic.com, where you can watch some of the previous videos as well as do other things that aren't implemented yet in the website. And also our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user/weeklydic, where you can see all the previous episodes that we have recorded and modified. And just a little bit of caution thrown out there, episode 9 is incredibly crappy quality. The static it's almost unwatchable. But the person editing it, Miles, he did an excellent job in trying to get it better. So trust me, the video is better than the way it was when we streamed it, so you're actually getting a better view on all that. So, today is our first guest, well, not our first guest, our only guest. Today our guest is, let me actually call him up here. Probably should have done this a little sooner. We're actually going to try doing a video with this. Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How's it going? Our guest here today is Modi123.
Yeah,
So where'd you get that name from?
Just something I had from way back in the day. Talking about like 95, 96 with the original like Hotmail account and GeoCities and just most things I kind of kept with it. All my friends just take all my email addresses and such.
How long have you been with Dream & Code now?
Oh God. Let's see, 2008 I think is my profile date on there. Let me check. I don't know.
How have you liked your time at Dream & Code so far? You've been enjoying? Well, if you're sticking around, I assume you enjoy it.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny. I found this site. Let's say a bunch of Microsoft guys came through one of my old workplaces, and this guy was popped it up, and he was looking for some SQL query help. And I go, man, what is this? This colorful little site here. And so I scribbled it down, and then later on at work, back at my desk, kind of looking at my shoulder, make sure no one's looking at me not doing work. I said, hey, this is actually something kind of cool. Signed up, said I'm not going to make a mistake like I did with Slashdot and sign up too late so I don't get a really good number, right? Because you got to have a really good user ID number. Got to have a low one. So it just kind of pretty much everything since then has just kind of spiraled out of control. To where I'm now a moderator. God knows why.
And what is it? What part of the website do you mostly focus on?
Quite a bit of it's on the .NET technologies. VB is what I use at work. I use also a bit of C#, a lot of SQL. God, awful lot of SQL. But it turns out a lot of the stuff I work out pretty well with, like the Java that resides in the back of my brain from college and the C++. And it turns out if you get exposed to enough of the same questions, enough of the same answers, turns out you can kind of help pretty effectively.
So you mentioned that you do a lot of SQL, so that might actually let me bring it up here. There's a post on the forums that actually mentioned about SQL injection. Let me bring it up here. Computer it's just lagging because I got so many things going at once right now. the proper way to handle SQL injection is what it was. Can't really find it right now. I would ask to you, what would you say is a good way to? I mean, it obviously depends on what you're doing, but do you handle that a lot when you're doing with SQL itself, or that's more of the web-based stuff?
Well, I do a lot of web-based stuff as well too. My new job I have, got a little background. I worked through. I'm now like my third company I've ever worked for in my life. So I started off this credit card company, right, and with a phone job. I was the guy who did all the credit card fraud. Like you lose your card at 3 a.m. and you call my company up and you're complaining and bitching and moaning. And I'm the one that's like, poo-poo, it's okay, we'll stop all the credit card fraud from happening. Then they turned out to go, hey, this guy's going to school for computer science. Our software people, who I've been trying to get good with, they go, they would like to have us make a test. I said, okay. Well, turns out they wanted me to get extra schooling for stuff, like a graduate degree or graduate with a degree. So I said, bumped out there. Then I moved to another company that's a construction company, and turns out that's when I first found out about SQL injection the hard way by my users doing it. It turns out they were really good at copy and pasting things that inadvertently would just destroy my tables. So after some conferences, my boss was like, okay, man, I don't know what are these users are doing. Yeah, they go, oh yeah, you should maybe parameterize your queries, maybe sanitize some stuff, check some values. I'm going, oh, that's cute. So after that, it's been pretty much a long route of doing that. My new job, though, I'm not only just doing desktop applications, but I'm doing a lot of web applications. So we have a lot of search functionality and stuff. And turns out a lot of people just go through our website and just copy and paste and just try to mangle our search preferences and our URL code and all that stuff as well too. So yeah, it's the first line of defense is always parameterized queries. Good God, always do that.
How about for those that may not be aware of, since Dream and Code is focused on people that are new to programming, with people that are good at programming and trying to help each other out, you want to explain exactly what SQL SQL injection is for those people?
Okay. So you take SQL injection is where you have you just take blanket code from, say, a text box, shove it into a query like concatenate and like a string, and then run that against your table or your SQL query. Well, it turns out with certain characters with backspaces or slashes or colons, you can break how SQL operates and make it do things that you don't want it to do as a developer. So you can have it tell you a whole table, or there's an XKCD comic that everyone throws around about Bobby drop tables. So you can format your code, a SQL query, to actually drop the table it's running against. So you have this giant table, say, user information, right? They're trying to log in. You can have them completely remove that table from your database, and bam, it's gone. So you want to stop that from happening. That's it's basically someone maliciously injecting a specific set of commands to make SQL operate differently than it should.
It's certainly something that's very, very harmful if you don't watch out for it. So it's one of those things that you don't really notice how bad it is until it happens, and then you're already screwed. So it's better safe than sorry in some situations like that.
Yeah, it's not fun. I'm
learning a valuable lesson with this episode, that having one monitor is terrible for doing this show, because I'm trying nice. What is that? Is that Pedo Bear?
No, it's Pedestrian Bear. It says so right in his name tag.
It certainly looks familiar to me.
Yes, you might have seen this on my profile picture. It's a little Pedestrian Bear injection.
So I didn't bother to write down some of these notes on my on paper or anything. So now I'm actually alt-tabbing and stuff. So I have to switch to the camera thing so that I can alt-tab into another window so I can look up this stuff. I really, lesson learned this episode, with one monitor, I need to write stuff down on paper.
That's always a good idea.
So you mentioned after the episode I did a little while back with Lord of Duck, I believe it was, about game programming. You've done a good amount of work with game development stuff. You want to talk about that at all? Your experiences with that?
Well, a lot of it's dealt with a lot of well, let's rewind a bit. Back in the day, probably a Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever it was, when a young bright-eyed, Jeremy was running around trying to get books and learn more about technology and programming. I ended up buying a bunch of those Sam's Clubs, like, learn, what was I was making fun of recently with John Carmack and his virtual reality. There was a reality book that, these things are like $30-40, and so my mom's like, well, okay, we'll buy these things. And so I tried to read these things. And, when you're 15 years old or so, and you're trying to read a book on, pretty heavy topics of that, it gets a little difficult. So it's like, well, let's not do virtual reality. Let's scale back in video games. Video games sounds like a good idea. Everybody can make a video game. Everybody plays them. Why not? Then that went to a foray into OpenGL and DirectX, and that kind of worked for a bit. But then I figured out that, I kind of put it to this wayside, and I found this whole XNA business. And XNA is a pretty nice platform. Again, Microsoft .NET technology. So it works well with what I have in terms of Visual Studios. It doesn't take a whole lot more than just a couple installs for it. I can run it on my Zune. I can run it on an Xbox game and Windows platform. So it seems like a pretty good use device, since I'm really not a big Linux fan, and nor am I much of a Mac user. So, but so yeah, those sort of things in terms of how to make a game and how to like a game engine and whatnot are pretty universal things. Once you learn them enough, it's easy to write around them. So there's a tutorial I wrote on how to do, and also it seems to be a lot of people want to make a video game with VB.NET, and they want to use buttons and picture boxes, and that just makes no sense to me. Like, why would you move a picture box or a button around when you have access to drawing directly a bitmap to it, right?
I've actually done that when I was messing with Visual Basic years ago. I made a game with a button that floated around the screen.
Yeah, and see, everybody starts there, but there's better ways of doing it. And there was I have a tutorial there that was object oriented, learn how to do objects, and also a bit of VB code. There was a game challenge about evil games, or evil game, or what it was, challenge, that I ended up writing a help pedestrian bear find his friend.
Yeah.
And that was all VB. And there was no fancy XNA behind there or nothing like that. It was bare bones VB form and just drawing images on top of it, interacting with it. It's pretty fun.
Help pedestrian bear find his friend, huh?
Yeah. I think I put that challenge because how awesome it was.
So do you do much do much game development now, or is it more just like a hobby of yours?
It's a hobby. I'm trying to push some stuff with work at my new job to when we go to trade shows. I work in now the travel industry, corporate travel to be exact, and we go to well, I don't go to these. All of our pretty hip and awesome people go to these trade shows and stuff, and they occasionally have fun games, and they try to have people interact with our software and our sites, and kind of show us what we have versus everybody else has. But so I've been trying to wheedle with them. It's like, hey, we can make a game or two. It wouldn't take me that long. It wouldn't take too much of my time on my regular duties, and it'd be a more customized game to us. It'd be kind of fun. And they're kind of batting the idea around, but they're going, well, yeah, but we could just outsource that to somebody else, and they'll probably do it better and sleeker. And I go, but I want to do it. I want to do it. And then there was, in my previous job at the construction company, when I was working a lot of purchasing orders, I had a joke with all our testers that I was going to write a RPG system for this. And I go, this would be a very easy thing. So when we had a day-long meeting, sat there on a notepad and had about 20 pages of a shell of a game RPG of like a top-down, I don't know, call it Final Fantasy, Dragon Knights, no, what it is. Yeah, anyways, it was a pretty badass idea. Unfortunately, that never got to happening because, again, they go, yeah, your duties are actually supposed to be, helping the business run and not sit around making video games. That makes people jealous.
So you working on any particular projects at the moment, be it games or like personal projects or anything like that?
Microsoft projects, yeah. I don't know if you guys have checked out I have a thread under the Share Your Projects. So my new goal has, this year, because I kind of want to do the whole, let's have a goal every year and do something interesting, something different, kind of like what Zuckerberg does, but I'm not killing goats and chickens and, was hardware interaction. I always found things like, making programs are great, but making a robot, like an iron grip death robot, would be so much cooler, right? And so things like, let's see what I have back here. You get this shown up here. I started off with, I guess, what all these engineering students do. They're called Bobots. They're little platforms that run on some sort of variant of like QBasic, and you have your little breadboard and all the wires, and build this platform, and you write the code for it, and it runs around and bumps into things. This one right now is set up to have light sensors. I can zoom in there. There's a little antennae on there, and it will follow or run away from light depending how I code this. So that was pretty slick, and I go, well, you know, I got my use of this, and it's a big, thick book, and it teaches you a lot about electronics and what I thought were apparently candy, but I guess they're capacitors. Apparently you're not supposed to eat on those. And that's fun. Then I moved on to being a .NET guy. Let's see what I have to do. It's this thing called Panda. Is that dogs barking in your background, or is that dog?
Yeah, there's 3 dogs here, and I was hoping they would shut up long enough for the show to be done.
Well, that's usually fun. So the first Panda is like an Arduino board. I don't know if everybody can see that. And I'll have a video about this a bit more. This runs on .NET micro framework. So this thing is I think like a 75 megahertz little chip on board on here that I can hook up to different various. There's like buttons and sound keys, speakers. And it's kind of,
What are they? I'm sorry, that must be annoying, but they're just going crazy. I have no idea why.
It's .NET framework.
They must really not like what you're talking about. There's 3 of them, and they're all those little tiny barking dogs. The door's closed, they're downstairs, and I can still hear them clear as if they're like right here in front of me.
Yeah.
I think they stopped. All right, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So Arduino is one of those things that Radio Shack has picked up recently. I'm not sure how that fits into their business model at all. But with Arduino, it's a lot more kind of open source shenanigans, right? And eventually, I'll probably move to that platform. But I'm going to get as much use out of this .NET stuff because it's something that's useful and friendly to me. In fact, the way this is set up right now is a web server. Funny enough, so this little shell, this little shield on top of it. If I can angle myself right. There's a plug-in for my Ethernet to my for my router. And I believe number 2, Pencil, was testing this out for me one day. I had it directly tunneling, and every time someone connected to it and it displayed a little string HTML page, my green light would light up. Of course, I think he broke it and started tunneling into it and trying to break the code for it, which I was like, no, let's not break the expensive gadget. By expensive, I mean $30. The whole box was about $150.
Still, it's pretty interesting, though.
Yeah, and this box, and they call it the kit of many things. And so it has all your stuff, and it comes with this little LCD touchscreen. I don't know if you can see it through the wrapper there yet. But I was like, well, shit, okay. Gets me where I need to go, and eventually, my plan was, and I keep saying this, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen because it's kind of expensive, is to build my own drone, like a UAV type thing. And I found out through the usefulness of Google and Bing that there's a large do-it-yourself drone community out there, like a scary large group. And these things are easy to make. So the feds are running around with these things like, well, why can't I have 1 or 2 with a laser on them? Patrol my apartment when I'm not here and all that stuff. But it'll be a while before I get that far. But that's what I'm hoping. That's where I'm shooting for, aiming for.
Yeah, at work, and you hear in the news that there's like a fire or something's going on in your neighborhood. It's like, oh, wait, well, let me log into my home server and launch the UAV and check things out.
Exactly. And I guess you can get a whole kit of these things if you want to just go for the kit, like remote controlled. And some guy wrote this giant, I guess he works for a drone company, but wrote an open source UAV program where you install on your Arduino chip and stuff, and you send your copter up, and you can, with Google Maps, tell it GPS coordinates to go to, and it'll fly point to point to point, and if it loses radio contact, it can go back to a safe zone. I mean, these things are, darn near military-grade technology here, and that's allegedly how Iran took down one of our drones, was they overrode the GPS signal and confused where it needed to land, and it landed in their country versus, say, something that we control.
At my time in the military, I was able to interact with a couple UAVs, and the way I did it was through just a computer. All I was putting is little grid coordinates and say, hey, go here, and it would go there.
Yeah, so, and that's what this program is like, this guy has, and so I was just shocked at how well developed this community was. I thought there was going to be more having to solder things together and do all that stuff, but this stuff is pretty well laid out where, I mean, if I really felt like it, at $800 I could drop down and get a quadcopter with all the radio control bits and just assemble it myself, slap this guy's program on there, and off we go in a weekend. And now I'm patrolling the neighborhood.
Yeah, make sure that you put in a silent feature to where you can go into stealth mode.
Yeah, yeah.
With a little night vision camera on it.
Of course, night vision required. No, it shocked me were these guys who have miniature jet planes. I mean, these things are, there's a video of these guys zipping around the desert over by Vegas area. I mean, these things are clocking. I mean, they're leaving a pretty good trail. And these miles gone, and so all they had was a small camera feedback of what the plane was seeing intermittently when it was, you know, out of the canyons. But this thing was awesome. And the guy said once he threw it, it went off on its coordinates he set up earlier, and it did a loopy-loop around stuff and did a bunch of tricks and checked out some things and came back and landed by itself. Shocking.
And the kit that you got that you were mentioning earlier that you're messing around with right now, that's the what's the name of that exactly again?
It's called the Fez Ultimate Kit. It's a company called if you go to it's at tinyclr.com. It's all .NET kits for these guys, and they have the new Microsoft. It's called Spider. So it's like the Arduino system, but more polished and more of a prototyping system. So if you wanted to have a PS3 or 2 joystick button, they have those attachments for it. Better refined screens, a whole mess of stuff, and that's kind of a more expensive thing if you're looking just to make hardware type stuff. But this Pico kit, this Fez 2 Panda business, you know, for it was $140. I think I just saw it on sale for $100 on the website now because I guess you're trying to get rid of this in the inventory. But it's working. I mean, it's kept me busy and kept me active for quite some time.
It's all done with .NET.
Yep.
Do you use C# or Visual Basic with that?
I believe it's all C# because it cuts out a lot of the extra BB-ish stuff to make it work better or more effectively.
That's awesome. Nice little kit for people that are interested in interacting with hardware, but don't really feel like going as deep as assembly. Just C#.
Exactly. And the other fun part of it, so I'm also sort of attached to our Omaha.NET users group. And every so often they have a topic I might care to show up on and see what's going on. And 2 meetings ago I dropped in was with their, it's Microsoft, it's called, excuse me, HPC, High Performance Computing. It is essentially, you can build clusters, you know, at home. So you can have no Beowulf clusters or crap like that. This all runs on Server 2008, like a Service Pack 2 Special Edition. And this guy, who, bless his heart, was an older guy. He was so monotone and so dry. It wasn't the fact that I already was streaming, you know, ideas in my head of what to do with this. I probably would have fell asleep. But he had a Xenon blade at home he remoted into. It was 2-core or 2-chip, 8-core piece, and also a 4-core chip he had networked together. And so, you know, 20 cores, right? Runs this application. It's a C# app, and it uses all the .NET 4.0 tasks, you know, the new threads, or, you know, no more threading, because starting, you know, old school, we have tasks now. And was able to, he has this blackjack program he wrote that simulates a blackjack hand, and it simulated 1,000, or, yeah, simulated 1,000, it took him 3 minutes or so. Running on this distributed network, this high-performance PC, he had virtual machines set up. He was able to do over 100 million in less than 36 seconds. I was like, that's off the hardware you have at home? And he's like, yeah. I go, ooh.
That's a pretty impressive home setup there.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a blade. He picked up Craigslist and an old PC out floating around, networked them together, installed the client on all of them, and all it did was the head program farms out all the tasks to all the other PCs, and they come back with all the stuff, and the data's pretty quick as long as your connections are. He was using I think a gigabit router at home just to make sure it's nice and fast. But I mean, it was
all that power though, and he makes a computer program that deals blackjack hands. I mean,
well, that was an example he had. It turns out with I didn't know this. Microsoft Excel 2010 has a hookend for this as well too. So you can run giant macros on your spreadsheets against your high-performance cluster nodes, and it does crazy. I guess you know, if you're a day trader or whatever have you, that you would need these things to parallel out. And he had some formula he was calculating. I forget what it was called, but was like, wow, Excel, good old Excel is already built in. No one knows about it unless you're looking for it for cluster computing. It's crazy. So that was another thing to go, well, if I had more money or more PC parts laying around, or
always good. I say the same thing. It's all like, if I have a bit of money, I can put together this. I'll find some parts in my garage in boxes, and then I'll be all like, you know what? If I just had this one other part.
Yeah, I just get that more power bill, or yeah, the wife doesn't care about the heat coming out in the middle of winter time. That's fine. Type of stuff. Yeah.
Hey, so it's like a heater/computer built in one, right?
Well, that's what I kind of figured, just a heat pump, right? Just cycle back in the house on a cold night, and off you go. Like, honey, fire up the cluster. Gotta warm ourselves tonight in bed.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play this ad thing that number 2 has, and it'll give me time to actually alt tab and look back at my notes without having to overlap windows. All right, so I'm gonna mute things.
Having problems with your laptop? Computer Design and Repair has been servicing the Cuyahoga Falls area since 2003. Stop in for your free diagnostics. Computer Design and Repair offers flat-rate repairs, no surprise costs or fees. Cracked or broken LCD? Only $185. Broken or missing keys? Just $50. Laptop isn't charging when plugged in? Loose jack where the adapter plugs in. We'll replace your DC jack for just $125. Virus removal? Only $87. All work is done in-house to offer you a fast turnaround time. We can get your laptop repaired and back to you in 2 to 3 days. Located in downtown Cuyahoga Falls at 125 Portage Trail. Call Computer Design and Repair at 330-929-2600 with any questions or to schedule your free diagnostics. 330-929-2600. Computer Design and Repair.
All right, we are back. Back from that awesome sponsored commercial. It's not Kaya. Because it was a new, he created a new one because, of course, as the company grows and stuff, things change, addresses, phone numbers, whatever change, prices change. So that's why we're playing that one for now. Number 2 Pencil has mentioned that he was interested in getting with Kaya and trying to make a new one with the voice of Kaya in there. So I'm open for that because, I kind of like they said in chat earlier, that guy's voice just sounds like one of those people trying to lure children to his van. They also said that you have a good weatherman voice. Yep, there you go. Can you say that the weather outside is sunny, chance of rain 70% or something like that?
The weather outside is sunny, and there's a 70% chance of rain later tonight.
That doesn't make any sense. How is it sunny with 70% chance of rain?
Tonight.
You lie, just like all the other weathermen.
Damn straight. That's why I get paid the big bucks.
So, you did mention that earlier, before we started the show, it was probably about an hour before the show, that you had to run to the gym real quick. So, obviously, you hit up the gym often. So, would you consider yourself a programmer then? Because, just because you go to the gym, or do you think there's more to a programmer than just going to the gym?
Oh, I'm still too pudgy to be a programmer. I don't gel my hair up or have awesome tanned abs. I am quite the shut-in, pale-skinned IT guy. Hopefully in about a year or so, I'm going to work into my programming nature and get my big stunner shades. There was a picture floating around, I believe, on the Meet Your Mentors page on Dreaming Code, me with my awesome stunner shades on for my sister's wedding. So yeah, those are pretty good. I occasionally will pop them out in the middle of traffic and look like a badass. But no, not a programmer. Sorry, I'm just a bro and a programmer, not a programmer yet.
So you take you're interested in fitness though, and all that sort of stuff outside of just the usual person who just sits in front of the computer that most people that have that general idea of what a nerd / computer science person looks like. Are you more of a fitness person, would you say, or?
Well, I'm trying to. If you might have noticed that I keep up the whatever season of fitness and Dreaming Code. It's been about 3 or 4 seasons or so. The thread going of trying to keep everybody somewhat motivated. I mean, we do have a lot of. I've been interacting with a lot of overly unhealthy individuals at work. And hell, I look in my mirror some days, and when I'm not hungover, I can go, well, that guy looks pretty unhealthy too. But, you know, I think we can do better as a group. I mean, there's people I work with, especially they're kind of the older with, you know, the 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids around and whatnot, and they're all big into running at work and getting all worked up during lunchtime. I'm like, yeah, screw that, I'm not sweating at work if I have to. That's why I'm a programmer, not working outside, but go to the gym, sure. I think, you know, things like eating better as a whole, as a community as a whole, we need to do better at that. I mean, sure, Mountain Dew's a great thing. When I see the threads and people are like, well, what do you drink in your program? And everybody's like, well, I drink 20 Red Bull cans a day and Monster Energy drinks. I go, dude, that is so not good for you. I mean, I might not, like I said, I'm not the healthiest person, no, but I think as a community, we can do a lot more to help that. I mean, there are some, granted, absolving the 3 pages Nutella, the conversation that B9 and Neo Tiff had in the last fitness thread, first page or two. You know, there's things we can do for better, eating healthy and not quite easily going for the ramen noodle cups stashed everywhere as we're playing Diablo 3 for 20 hours and occasionally getting up, moving around, and getting circulation back to our lower extremities and stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
And I figure, I'm getting more fit as it is, and I'm always constantly tweaking what I'm doing. Being an IT person by general, I'm not necessarily tracking it hardcore with a smartphone because I don't own one. Shockingly enough, I'm still on the flip phone business, as you can see from the level of Katana 2 Razor here.
Your phone still flips.
I know, right? And I get ungodly amount of crap from work, and said, unless you guys are going to, shoot for a larger phone or a better phone and company plan, that's fine. Or stop bitching about it.
Yeah.
My phone takes phone calls, and I don't need to check email from it. That's great. But I think we should try a little better to do things. And I track the things I do, and tweak my diet here and there. And I'm not a big fish person, so for a while I was doing the whole omega-3 fatty acid pills from GNC, and those weren't too bad. It was definitely kind of like, hey, well, the cholesterol's lower now, and the heart rate's a little better. So then I kind of got off of that for a bit, and I go, well, I was looking through my nutritional facts, and I was like, man, I'm missing I do happen to drink, not what I call a lot, but people might call it that. I like to go out, so why stay inside? And it turns out a lot of potassium and magnesium gets drained out for doing that. That's why you have things like hangovers. I found out that I was poking around GNC and talking to the meathead there, who was just, God, if he was dumber than a box of rocks, I'm not sure what would be. And so he sits there, and he kind of looks like an ACD Slater wannabe, and I was like, dude, I need some magnesium and potassium. What do you recommend? He's like, well, this one's pretty good. I'm like, why is it different than this one? He goes, I don't know, and he starts trying to back it. And I look at it, I was like, dude, just give me those things real quick, and I scanned through it, and I kind of knew what I was getting anyways, and so I'm doing that supplements of magnesium, potassium. Turns out, works wonders for me. A lot of excess, for a while I had a fairly high salt content intake, chips and all that crap, and I got rid of most of that, but I go, this does regulate water pretty well, and it keeps me, when I go to the gym, it doesn't suck as much the next day, waking up after doing leg presses with 5 40-pound weights on both sides. So it's something to go, well, shit, my diet was missing that, and now I have it in there, and it works out better for me. And I know B9's will probably bitch and moan. She's like, I'm not a pill taker. I don't take pills, and I don't like doing that. I go, well, there's certain things that it's better than that, than having to radically alter what I'm eating or have to spend more on groceries, right? That gives me more money to go out or to buy my cluster computer or my next hardware project. So, yeah, I think as a whole, I'd like to see the community keep going there. And I know we have a few guys in the thread that are, I'm squatting 500 pounds and stuff, and that's great. If that's your thing, man, more power to you. I had a buddy who was a power lifter, and it was one of the most disturbing and slightly amazing things I've ever seen. He went to this gym in my town who was ran by this girl named, questionable term, Becca Swanson. She was one of the strongest women in the world holders for a while, and this lady was huge. I'm 6'7" for God's sakes, and she made me feel small. But I go, that's her thing. She was ripped to the gills, and she could squash my head in her arm, and that's fine. But that's not me. And I know people who are, they'll run 20 miles a day. Honest to God, they'll boom, get off work, throw on the tennis shoes, boom, out the door, come back an hour later, they have the 20 miles done. I'm like, man, that is awesome. Not me, but so I do what I can to keep fit and or try to lose the pounds and get a little healthier, and I think it works. And I think helping the community out and everybody kind of get to go to see that it's okay to do that, because it is kind of scary. I do see a lot of other nerds, God, geeks and whatnot from the community, like the .NET groups and stuff, who go into the gym and they're just scared shitless. Yeah. I mean, all the bad rap from gyms and high schools and stuff, the wedgies, the swirlies, the making you can't run, or the asthma kids. And so, I'm always one to like, hey, dude, nice seeing you here. Looking like you're losing some weight. Keep up the good work, blah, blah, and, off I go and put my earbuds back in. And so it might make them a little more comfortable being there versus the meatheads. And there's like this guy tonight who's back again. I was off his rotation, but he's the grunter. That's all I can. He sits there and he's like benching, and all he goes is, ugh! And it is the most distracting thing with headphones on, because I'm start laughing, and he gets pissed when people laugh at him. I'm like, well, you're a 40-year-old man. You sound like you're like, shitting out your colon. This is not good. And my coach in high school, who was like a football coach and stuff, always said that if you're a prima donna that has to make a noise, go to some other gym. Don't annoy us. You don't have to do that to lift weights, right? You can do it normally without making obscene noises that make everybody else titter and laugh.
But one thing I've noticed about gyms that probably keeps some people away, at least for the gyms I've noticed, is that they always tend to have their exercise machines right in front of windows that are facing outside in like the street. So people are walking by watching you on a treadmill or whatever, so you just feel self-conscious about yourself, and you're like, why do they put the machines right in front of the window?
Well, it's like a good motivator to look outside and go, man, I could be doing this outside in the bike, or I could be running around in the fresh air versus the recycled stale
or you
sweat.
Or you could be thinking, I could be out there. Why am I in here?
Exactly, right? Why do you sit 20 minutes in rush hour traffic just so you can run in a standing still position type thing, right?
I think it's important for people to know, though, that whole stereotype about programmers being nerds and everything like that, and then this whole new thing with the programmer and everything like that. It's just a way to show that the stereotypes don't always hold true. Yeah, there are people that do fit the stereotypes in every situation. But just because you're into that sort of stuff in programming doesn't mean you have to be that stereotype. You could be the guy that goes to the gym and all that stuff and eats healthy. You can be the guy that does all that stuff. It doesn't matter. If you have a passion for programming, I don't think that, just because you don't fit that stereotype, you should avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, that's important, and I think we've had a lot of discussions back and forth in the forums about stereotypes, and one guy what he asked, like, hey, I have only 3 posts here, but am I a geek or a nerd, and how do I break that stereotype, or how do I talk to ladies? And you can get out of those molds, and we're smart enough people that it doesn't take a radical change, but it takes a gradual change over time to do that, and I think we can look at things on a long-term perspective that. If I make small changes and small positive steps towards the direction I want to go, you can get there. And there's no reason we can't. And gyms don't have to be the big scary places that they are with stuff. And, and if you don't know what you're going to do, I mean, my routine, I change up about every 6 months. And of course, I go online, so I go, okay, what areas can I work out and what exercises can I do? So I go to the gym well prepared. Yeah. Shockingly enough, we research.
Programming is some people have a real passion for it, and some people it's just a little bit of a hobby, and so it fits different types of people.
Exactly, and we take all kinds, and all kinds come to us, but I think having an outlet for people to say it's okay and it's not something you should be scared of is a safety place for it. It's good.
I look at like any other type of activity, like drawing, painting. Playing an instrument or whatever like that. If you're really into it and you go after that job in that sort of field, but there's also the people that just do it for fun.
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing. I'm a big drawer as well too. Drawer. I like to see my drawings. I'm poking around.
Just say sketcher.
Yeah, exactly. I poke around a lot in the graphic design forum and I have Corel Paint, finally. I ended up finding that on eBay for about $10 or $15, and I was like, oh, hey, not too bad. Crashes more often than I care to, but, one of my things I got into last year with my job was end up getting a lovely moleskin notebook, because you're only hip and only cool if you have a black scheme
notebook. I'd order a bunch of them if I could, but...
Yeah, and I spend my lunch times like doodling through it, and there's the project ideas I have in here, things I've drawn, just random stuff in there, and a lot there's a lot of code work in here too. There's like
that's just an example though too. You're you do programming for your career, but it doesn't mean that you can't draw. You do as a hobby.
Oh yeah, and I was horrible. Give or take about 5 years ago. I mean, I was one of the worst. Stick figures and basic outlines. But after a while, you pick a couple notepads up, some pens and paper, hang out at Dick Blick art store for a while, and hobnob with all the real artists and the starving artists and whatnot. And it gets kind of amusing, and you pick up some stuff. There's a website I hang out. I don't really post as much, but I get ideas from. It's called conceptart.org. They do a lot of digital drawing and stuff, and they seem to be kind of a hotbed for if you're like one of those people who are like, oh, I'm building a video game, I need artwork done. That's actually not a bad place to go to. Their forums are insane. The guy who runs them has now built an art school around this as well too. It's like TAD, and I forget what the initials. It's like the art directive. Yeah, the art directive, TAD, and if people in the forums, just regular people who are posting, who are at home and who have other jobs, and if they get voted in for this or they apply for it, they go to art school, and they have like really good concept artists for video gamers and movies and people who do those crazy ads, and you're like, man, how do you do that? Well, if you get good enough chops and pay the money up for it, you can go to school with these guys and come out with a really respected degree from these. Again, it's not like a 4-year college or something of that nature, and but I have a good laugh because a lot of people who are in there, I mean, they're really serious about art. I mean, they're crazy art nuts, right? And then you'll see a bunch of programming questions in there, and you'll have one guy who'll answer things completely ask something wrong, and I'll try to help out on that, that part as well too. Or where we have a lot of people who are like, I have this really awesome game idea. I want somebody to program it for me for free. I want art for free. Well, these guys go, there's really good sketch artists they want all this stuff done. I just need somebody to program all the code behind it for free. It's kind of funny to see how the same archetypes we have here also function in their world as well. But it's a good place, and they have a lot of good tutorials for how to do better Photoshop drawings, and they have their forums are just the guys. We upload a lot of images and stuff, attachments and whatnot. Theirs blown out of the water how huge their hard drives are just to keep things filled up. Because everybody just posts these, they don't understand the concept of cropping drawings at all. So you have this drawing that, I'm sitting like, why is this page taking 10 minutes to load on my network connection? And all I see is a little box and it says, 10% of the drawing is just here. I'm like, oh my God, this is, what is this? And so you don't have to have this, 5,000, pixel square thing come up. You can make that smaller and people can still see detail on it. But again, I guess the art kids and their MacBooks don't understand that.
One thing that I think is important to know is that as far as getting into this sort of stuff too, like going to Dream Code, because people go to Dream Code or these art forums to learn how to do stuff or to get help. Mm-hmm. I've had people talk to me like not just with programming, but with some other things I'm good at. They're all like, how do you know so much about this? How are you so good at this? And I just was like, it's just like anything else. You just practice, you learn the tools. Like if you with drawing, you learn the tools, you learn like what the different pencils do and all that stuff. And then you just practice and try to get good at it. And that's all I did with programming. Of course, tutorials online help at some points when you're trying to figure out new languages and all that.
Well, exactly, and I came across that same sort of concept a couple of weeks ago. My brother-in-law wanted me to give me some half-ass idea of this web application he wants done. He was like, well, how long will that take you to do? And is this even possible? I said, well, he wanted like a web page with a data grid involved and a database background. And I go, well, I can do an ASP, but I don't think your host will allow that. But give me a bit of time with some PHP and JavaScript, and I can do this. Well, it turns out all my background of the .NET and just programming in general translates really easily across other languages. I mean, I might not have learned the entirety of PHP, but I learned enough to make to fill in a Yahoo UE grid. That's what he wanted to have, and make it look like that. JavaScript for that, the PHP background, the databasing, the interface for that, and after a bit longer than it would take me to do it in like ASP, I had this fully functional web app that can run on this host for him. And it's one of those things where once you learn programming enough generalized, you can It's like I know what a grid does, and I know what a grid should have in it. So I look for those things on like the PHP manuals, and off you go. It's not that tricky of a thing. Once you can cross-apply everything you know. You don't need to know one language, and that's all you know.
So as long as the language is Turing complete or whatever, it basically has the same things for each language. It just some of them are expressed differently.
Yeah, the syntax is different, and you just Google the syntax and look it up, and it's not so scary because there's we get a lot of those posts in Dreaming Code of, oh man, I know Java really well, but I can't do PHP or understand how .NET works. And you're like, well, you know what for loop is. A for loop is a for loop is a for loop.
Yeah.
The syntax might change a bit here and there, but it's cross-applied skill. It's just look in a more general and less local view of things.
Just like how Java and C# are very close in the way they look and everything like that. So if you know Java, if you try out C#, you're probably going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa as well.
Yeah, or C++ for that matter. If you're still using the Turbo C++, and
and even with languages that don't follow the same format sometimes, like with Python, how you have the indentation and white space and all that, it's still easy to get the grasp of. So once you figure out how it works with its formatting, the syntax is still pretty close, with loops and everything like you said.
PHP being another one, exactly, because you can have the same thing done 1,000 different ways in PHP. Thankfully, the PDO stuff, I picked up that over the weekend after I wrote a tutorial. Right, they're switching from the whole MySQL library to the PDO business of database connections, and I think Mac OS X sent me a PM who says, hey, next time try using the more newer ways of doing things. Like, sorry, sir, but I go, those things make it a lot helpful, and granted they don't really have types per se in PHP, but you can make it more useful, make it more something you know how to do and readable. And
most languages, if they're like an object-oriented language, they're going to have stuff like classes. They're going to have all languages are going to have some ways to do loops and storing variables and all that stuff. So if you got one language and you got the idea of programming down, it's not too hard to just pick up another language. You have to learn the syntax and everything. One book could probably get you started, or once you got the idea of programming languages.
Precisely, and that's where everybody goes to college for. Not everybody goes to college, but that was the idea behind college. I mean, the first intro programming class, which was like a C++ class, the teacher looked at us and said, look, you will learn the syntax of C++ here, but the concepts are what's important. You'll be able to apply that for your level 2 Java class or whatever goes on for it. They made it expressly clear that your program is well good and it's good to know C++. Think globally, right? And I guess a lot of teachers aren't, expressing that out of coming out of college, because you see how many posts of, all I know is Turbo Pascal or something like that, and I don't know how to write anything in Java, or where do I start at? Oh no, throw their hands in the air and they run around like a chicken with their head cut off. And you go, look, calm down. Again, think larger than just the concepts. I guess I should write all the colleges and say, look here, those should be the first words of your mouth in your programming classes. Learn the general ideas, not necessarily the syntax. You will be good later in life.
And computer science is the concepts of computer science.
Exactly.
Programming languages are tools that you use to work in that field.
Yeah, exactly. And I got in a slight PM discussion with, it was about a 3-post person who was doing the same thing. They were throwing their hands like, oh no, woe is me, my college sucks, and they only taught me C++ and Java, and that's nothing, I can't get a job in that, blah, blah, blah. Look, calm down. Again, you went to school not just to learn 1,000 languages, you went to school to learn, again, the science.
Far too many languages to learn them all in school.
Yeah.
It's just like any type of device you use in a career. Some other job, I have this device and their tools that they use. They have to learn how to use this one because it's an upgrade or a different one. Language is the same.
Exactly. And, people just need to, I don't know if it's a generational issue or schools aren't explaining it, but that would be helpful for us, just as a forum to tell them that offhand, like, hey, calm down. I'm not a teacher.
And then another thing with programming that turns some people off from it is this idea that programming, you need to be a math genius to get into programming. And I find that's not entirely true unless it's without certain programming things, like game development will require some math. But I don't think all of computer programming requires you to be some sort of math genius.
Oh, hell no. There's days I come home from work, I did a whole mess of crazy stuff at work and wrote a bunch of back office applications that are splicing emails apart and shoving them together and resending them out to people. And I get home and I look at my computer, I'm like, yeah, you're not getting turned on. Or I might sit down and play some Torchlight or some Minecraft, but I don't, go home and write more code. I either that or I draw. I have another hobby that's not me hacking on. But of course, there's some days, like last time I was working that application for my brother-in-law, that did 8 hours of programming at home or at work, and come home and made some dinner and watched some Big Bang Theory reruns. I guess it's some hip show everybody's kids are watching nowadays, and sat down about 7:30, kind of get some stuff mapped out, and I looked up and it was 2 a.m. going, ooh, I should probably go to bed so I can go to work and abuse my wrists some more, I guess. But
hobbies are gonna have.
Yeah. So, it's not like we have to do that 24/7. You don't have to sit there and program all day long at work and program all long at night. You're not Mr. Anderson from Matrix. You don't have to be that guy who falls asleep on his keyboard. Get out in the sunshine a bit. Do something else. Be more than just a code monkey, right?
I fall into some of those stereotypes. So, like, one of my hobbies is doing math. So.
Yeah. Float your boat, and I know it was Atrib, whatever. It had a whole discussion on sequences, interesting sequences besides the Fibonacci.
Oh yeah, I was reading that.
And that's his. That's your kick, where you like to look at sequences and patterns. Hey, more power to you, man.
The Caffeine Lounge is there for talking about things that are not programming, right? Off topic.
Like HyperCard, and its 25-year anniversary, and people not hijacking my thread.
So I wanted to mention this. I kind of lost track at the beginning because I was trying to get things set up because new setup, one monitor and everything but that. But Ray Bradbury, that was dying recently. That was I read his book Fahrenheit 451. That's one of my favorite books. Have you ever read that one or any of this?
Yeah, they're stuffed in boxes somewhere, and I think that's going to be probably on my next list. With Borders closing, last year and whatnot, my Barnes and Nobles in the area have been pretty slim pickings for books, and I'm always more and more of an impulse buy. I don't want to have to sit there and wait for Amazon to ship it to me and whatnot, and so I've been kind of cycling through my older books, which I got in my dad's basement recently. So all my Kurt Vonnegut books, I'm going to probably cycle back to them. I haven't read them in 10 years, and Bradbury stuff's going to be in there as well, and eventually when I'm done with that, I'm going to probably break down and buy one of these e-reader things, and just be able to download these things directly, and off I go. But yeah, Fahrenheit 451 is pretty good. I have a buddy who just started reading that. He didn't like it too much.
I might reread it because, I read it a while back, but with the recent death and everything like that, I might reread it just for
yeah, and a lot of those books tend to have I guess like a fine wine. I believe my English teacher, compared it to is, you read it at one point in time in your life, if you come back around to it again 5-6 years later, it's a whole different story because of the experiences you've built upon it or what you've done with it or not done with it. And so I think a lot of those things are, because I was a big Kurt Vonnegut fan in high school. I have everything but 2 of his last books ever put out, like his kind of, not autobiography, but kind of non-fictional, how to write stuff. And I just couldn't read enough of them. And so I think they'll come back to him again, probably be nice, and see what how that applies now.
You ever read Charles Bukowski books, like Pulp? He's got some weird books. Just sometimes they're like I read Pulp, his book Pulp, and I was confused.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to figure out I got on Goodreads as well too, just to track all my books I've ever read, so it helps me remember these things a bit more, because reading sucked so badly.
My fiance actually uses that site. She reads, literally, she goes to the library, she'll bring home like 6 books, all different types. Like you have non-fictional books about how to do like a biology book or something. She'll have like a couple fictional books, some like erotic book or something like that. And she reads all these in like a week, goes back, gets 6 more.
Yeah, I'm over a read before bedtime, so I don't try to pick up a lot of heavy books in terms of like depressing books or more real world. I'm a big sci-fi, cyberpunk kind of got into that. Read through all of Gibson's stuff. His newer stuff has definitely changed since Neuromancer in those days and Giant Demonic and whatnot. And, you know, back in the day it was a lot of, you know, the fantasy novels, so like Dragonlance, the Forgotten Realms type crap. But that, you know, I can definitely see how you could peel through quite a few books pretty quickly.
One thing the only thing I have against like the e-reader thing is that they show that reading a book before going to bed is generally good because it helps get you tired and relaxed and everything like that. You know, ready to go to bed. And they show that using computer monitors, the glow of a computer monitor will sometimes keep you awake rather than lull you to sleep. So an e-reader, if that's sort of the same, the light coming off of that, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it wouldn't be something that would be. I wouldn't get the Nook Glow or whatever the new one is. That would be more of a just a simple, the non.
Oh, the one that's just the basic.
Yeah, the $100
calculator screen.
Exactly. My buddy's wife has one. She loves it. I just don't understand. I go, I thought these things were bigger, and I have, you know, big mitts. So it's one of those things I go, wow, it looks very small now.
It's just like a fancy etching sketch. You select a book and it like kind of writes it, the page out in an etching sketch.
Oh, hey, if it keeps me from to you know, charge it every night, then more power to that. I mean, I hate charging things with a passion. That's why I have a phone that I charge once, maybe a week and a half, and I have like hour-long phone calls on it. It doesn't really wear the battery down. Or my Zune HD, because yes, I support Zunes. Still, bastards closing them down. But that thing, I mean, that's about a 33-ish hour battery life, so that's, you know, 8 hours of work, me driving around with it turned on. Next day, same thing. I can get like 3 or 4 days of use out of it if I need to charge it up again. And it's super slim, and it's pretty cool. But it's not quite the big bulky Zone I used to have, or the, God bless it, the Toshiba Gigabeat, which was like a brick.
It's getting dark in here. I should probably turn this light on. Now that I know about the time the light gets out, I want to know to keep that light on.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the end now. The last thing I wanted to talk about is summer's upon us. Do you have any plans for summer?
I did. I did, and not so much anymore because it turns out shit's expensive now. Yeah, our work insurance just went up because, you know, for whatever reason, if you don't have kids and families, it's going to cost you more. And my rent went up and a bunch of other stuff. So my new game plan was I was planning on, and I joked about it, was visiting all the science centers, you know, the national science labs, like showing up at Oak Ridge or you know, Los Alamos or some of that. Those were the kind of things I always wanted to do as a kid, to visit science centers. You know, science was there was a very thin moment where I was either going to be, and this is stupid, but it'll say an astrophysicist or like an astronomer, astrophysicist person, or a computer science person. And I decided against how sad and pathetic the physics guys looked. I mean, they looked worse than the computer science guys. So I said, you know what? There might be a bit more money out of the astronomy. Doesn't seem to pay as much, I think, in the long term than computers do. And I can always do astronomy on the side. So my thought was, you know, I got a new car finally. Had, you know, another one kind of caught on fire while driving, and that was exciting. And so I figured, let's go drive places. Let's go have fun. But I was like, I think it was Dog Stopper and a couple of people who work at places like that. And they go, well, you just can't just show up the gate. Like, they have designated tour times. Like, you just can't plop down in a federal facility and expect to, you know, get shot by guards. I'm like, oh, well, that's less fun than I was expecting. I wanted to go see the shutdown colliders in Chicago, or I wanted to go see the fancy lights and electrodes and gizmos and stuff they have at Oak Ridge or Los Alamos, but I guess I can't do that. So I thought, you know what, refocus, take all the money I was going to do that, and just pay off the rest of my student loans and my car payments and stuff, and actually be a responsible adult and do things like that, or build my throne. So yeah, I might go a few trips here and there, but nothing too extravagant. No, like Jamaica or something like that.
Pretty much the same year, because I got class during June, but July, entirely off all of July. So the only thing I was thinking about doing that is starting to write a book I was interested in writing. That's about it. Save money as well. Just sit there and write. Doesn't cost any money.
Oh yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, you know, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea. I mean, you always, you know, gas seems to have gone slightly cheaper than it was, you know, a couple months ago. So yeah, I always figured maybe a road trip. Maybe go up to. I always want to go back to Yellowstone. If you haven't been to Yellowstone yet, do go. Yellowstone's a great place.
Is that where Yogi is? Oh, I'm thinking of Jellystone.
Jellystone, yeah. But not so much in the summertime because it's all full of people and traffic, but I had hit in the spring or the fall, Yellowstone. Very nice, and that or the Glacier National Park if you feel like going way north, up in the Montana area. That is phenomenal. My uncle many years ago rented a cabin out there, and I was shooting fireworks off a glacier. Probably not supposed to be doing that, but it was kind of fun. So, I'm a woodsy person too. I love my other many talents. Yes, I'm an Eagle Scout, so I do woodsy things occasionally. Not as much as I used to.
My fiance loves to go camping, so we do that every now and then. Well, we can. We haven't, but we haven't done camping in a long time. But we're planning on this July actually going camping.
Oh, so that's always good. You know.
So we're actually at 8 now, so it's probably time we should wrap things up. It was great talking with you. We covered a lot of interesting stuff. I got over my headache.
Oh, good. I'm glad I could help.
I didn't get much sleep last night, and then today I'm all like, new area, trying to get things set up, so, you know, pedestrian there.
Bye.
All right, thanks for talking with us and with me, and I'm sure we'll talk again sometime in the future.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
All right. And that is pretty much the time for today. Hopefully we got some interesting information talking about the stereotypes with programming, developing interactions with hardware using C# instead of assembly. We even talked about exercising, and we talked about hobbies and that sort of stuff outside of programming. So we covered a lot of interesting aspects of software of programming and computer science and that sort of thing. So you can see that the world of computer science is not limited to a man in front of a computer in the middle of the night just staring, you know, hacking on a keyboard. There's so much more to it, and I'd say that if you have an interest in programming, just do it. Or anything, you know, just do what you have interested in. Just because you don't know how to do something doesn't mean that you shouldn't, because you know, everyone's got to start somewhere. You can't just start out amazing at things. You know, when I started programming, I was terrible, and I wrote the worst code. I didn't know anything about programming and best practices and all that sort of thing. But it's by doing that you actually learn this sort of stuff, and talking with other people, and not just expecting other people to just give you the answers. You know, sometimes learning on your own is the best way. So thanks for watching in this new area. Hopefully everything got recorded good, and we can have episode 10 up on YouTube soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'm going to play this commercial again for everyone.
Having problems with your laptop? Computer Design and Repair has been servicing the Cuyahoga Falls area since 2003. Stop in for your free diagnostics. Computer Design and Repair offers flat-rate repairs, no surprise costs or fees. Cracked or broken LCD, only $185. Broken or missing keys, just $50. Laptop isn't charging when plugged in? Loose jack where the adapter plugs in. We'll replace your DC jack for just $125. Virus removal, only $87. All work is done in-house to offer you a fast turnaround time. We can get your laptop repaired and back to you in 2 to 3 days. Located in downtown Cuyahoga Falls at 125 Portage Trail. Call Computer Design and Repair at 330-929-2600 with any questions or to schedule your free diagnostics. 330-929-2600. Computer Design and Repair.